The Galveston Hurricane. In September 1900, a powerful hurricane struck Galveston, Texas, bringing in a 15-foot storm surge that drowned out the entire island. The death toll is said to be between 6,000 and 12,000 by historians, but around 8,000 is most commonly cited. Whole neighborhoods were destroyed, forcing 10,000 people to leave their homes. Engineers fought back by building a seawall and lifting parts of the island in response to future storms. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. On September 11, 2001, 19 terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial planes to be used as weapons. 2 planes crashed into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. A third struck the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and 1 plane, following passenger resistance, fell into a field in Pennsylvania. Some 2,977 individuals, not including the hijackers, were killed in New York, at the Pentagon, and on the flights. Firefighters, police fighters, and rescue staff were also killed in their attempt to rescue others. In the wake of this tragedy, the U.S. declared a war on terror, revised airport and national security procedures, and created the Department of Homeland Security. The Trail of Tears. After the U.S. government implemented the Indian Removal Act in the 1830s, tens of thousands of Native Americans were forcibly relocated from their territory in the southeast to land west of the Mississippi River. 60,000 people were removed from Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Muskogee, and Seminole, 15,000 of whom died on their way. Most died from exposure, disease, and starvation in camps and on their journey. The suffering was most devastating for the elderly, young people, and the sick, and many lost their lives as a result of the bone-chilling winter, disease, and harsh conditions rendered by neglect and indifference. The Pearl Harbor Attack. On December 7, 1941, a date that will live in infamy, Japan launched an unexpected military attack on the U.S. Pacific Fleet in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The attack destroyed nearly 20 warships and more than 300 planes, including 8 battleships. Over 2,400 Americans died, and more than 1,000 were injured. The attack pushed the United States to take action, drawing the country into World War II the next day. Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast in late August 2005, hitting Louisiana and Mississippi, most notably New Orleans. The storm overran levees and inundated about 80% of New Orleans. Over 1,800 people died, and hundreds of thousands were displaced from their homes. Neighborhoods were inundated as a whole, and the amount of damage cost more than $100 billion, ranking it among the most expensive natural disasters in American history. Katrina also laid bare glaring inequalities, with poor and most minority areas suffering the most in receiving aid. It sparked a national conversation over the government's response, and more importantly, disaster preparedness. The San Francisco Earthquake. On April 18, 1906, an earthquake of a magnitude 7.9 impacted San Francisco and the Bay Area. It sheared over 250 miles of the San Andreas Fault. The earthquake and its aftermath ignited fires that burned for at least 3 days, scorching almost 500 city blocks. At least 3,000 people died, and over 200,000 were left homeless in a city with only about 400,000 residents. As a result, stricter building codes were introduced, and there was an increased awareness of the threat of earthquakes across California. Oklahoma City bombing. On April 19, 1995, a truck exploded outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. It went on to become the worst act of domestic terrorism in American history. The bombing killed 168 people, including 19 children in a daycare center, and injured more than 680. Whole sections of the building dropped away, leaving a chasm in the city's skyline. The attack appalled the nation, exposing weakness in domestic security, and inspired new federal counterterrorism programs. Columbine High School shooting. On April 20, 1999, 2 students killed and wounded dozens of people at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. They killed 13 people, 12 of them students, and 1 teacher, while injuring more than 20 others, and eventually committed suicide. The massacre was a national shock, among the first mass shootings to send shockwaves worldwide. Columbine ignited national debates over gun laws, mental health, and the role of media in fostering copycat violence. The Titanic disaster. On the evening of April 14, 1912, the unsinkable RMS Titanic sank into the North Atlantic following an iceberg's collision on its maiden voyage. Out of the 2,200 on board, 1,500 lost their lives, hundreds of them Americans, and with limited access to lifeboats, it left many women and children stranded in cold water. After this catastrophe, maritime safety reforms were introduced, such as stricter rules on lifeboat requirements, and the International Ice Patrol was established. The Dust Bowl. In the 1930s, as a result of poor agriculture and severe drought, the Great Plains were rendered a land of ruins. This tragedy came to be known as the Dust Bowl. Dust storms, which had been described as black blizzards, destroyed houses, farms, and towns. That caused the crops to go bad, the farm animals to die, and many families to be displaced. Nearly 2.5 million people were said to have fled west to California, adding to the Great Depression. Following the disaster, soil conservation laws were enacted to prevent a similar ecological disaster from occurring again, and agricultural reforms were also introduced. The Las Vegas Massacre. On October 1, 2017, a country music festival on the Las Vegas Strip went haywire when a gunman shot fire from a high hotel window into a crowd of concert attendees. The assailant killed 60 and wounded more than 850, striking a group of around 22,000 people with hailfire bullets. Panic spread instantly. Individuals dove for cover and people helped each other flee. The attack reignited high-priority debates over gun legislation, public security preparedness, and securing crowded public venues in the future.